The nationalist tabloid Global Times touts China's gold medal tie with the U.S., 40, right, as the latest sign it can rival America on the global stage. The article calls it a reflection of an unstoppable historic trend. With 40 gold medals, it was China's best performance at an overseas Olympics and strongest showing against the U.S. since Beijing hosted back in 2008.
Yeah, and our colleagues at Bloomberg Economics and also Bloomberg Intelligence have been crunching their respective numbers when it comes to China and the sort of Chinese corporates and the presence at the Olympics. Let's bring in Eric Ju, our Bloomberg economist, and also our senior analyst, Catherine Lim, to talk us through these various facets to the Olympic conversation. Eric, I'll start with you. It seems that they're spending less, China's spending less on the athletes in the programs. What does it tell you in terms of their wishes to win at all costs, or not? Yeah. Maybe not anymore.
Yeah, a couple of different explanations. One is obviously, if you look at timeline, looks like happened after COVID. So one reason is the economy is down, so the government just don't have as much money as before. So, and probably sports is now down the priority list, right? But the other, probably more promising explanation is that some sports now, they start to, allow more flexible participation in the state-sponsored sports system, right? Usually they rely exclusively, all the money maybe come from the state side. So it's a state-sponsored sports system. So athletes, it's all, trained, identified by the state system. But now I think some more, professionalized sports like tennis, golf, it's more money-making opportunities, right? So parents or private side, they also start to, identify and train their own talents outside of the state system. So that means it's required less from the government to investment in those areas. So if that's true, that's also explain why, the state funding is less than before, but they still manage to achieve the similar achievements as before. So that's some good news for the government.
Would you say that's the end of what China, the state-driven sort of sports system?
Yeah.
Is that coming to an end?
Probably, I think that will still stick for a while because it's had proven to work well, and I don't think they're going to abandon that. But at the same time, I think the government will realize that they can welcome more money from the outside of the system, and especially for those sports I just mentioned. So that will also. It's a win-win situation for both the government and the sports, right?
Yeah, and Catherine, on the corporate side, this neck-and-neck race between Team US and USA and Team China, who have been the biggest winners there?
It was neck to neck all the way until the last day, right?
Yeah,
so,
even after.
So, not going to make any comments on women's basketball finals, but I guess, really there was so much, scrutiny, whether it's the brands and really, the attention span, whether even basketball is amazing because that's one of the most popular sports in China. So you actually had attention and people watching, that event itself. And that's actually also going to be good for the advertising revenues for Tencent's Kuaishou and Douyin. And notwithstanding, of course, I would say that, Nike, was also a beneficiary because of the basketball. And really, I would say that, take a step back. I think the last goal that was actually being clinched by Team China, that was probably weightlifting, if I'm not mistaken. So, we've got Anta actually sponsoring that as well. So I think, it's really across the board for these, 4-5 names. So Nike, Anta, Tencent's Kuaishou, Douyin, congratulations.
What about the tech companies? Are they in a position to gain from this?
Well, you know what? Interestingly, I guess, John, other than the on-demand video content players that I've just mentioned, like Tencent, Kuaishou, and Douyin, Alibaba was actually, in the background, actually testing out the AI technologies for this. But unfortunately, we're not really going to see much coming through because, it's more of a longer-term strategic, partnership that they actually had with the Olympics Committee. And really, I think that's going to be a longer-term thing that they want to go, with the cloud technologies.
Yeah, Eric, back to you. Is it a coincidence that, the U.S. and China, top of the medal standings, just happen to be the two biggest economies in the world, the two biggest superpowers?
Yeah.
Is there a correlation between economic might and success?
I think that's a strong correlation. If you look at top 10 or even top 20 countries on the list, it's loosely, generally associated with the overall GDP of the economy. So I don't think it's coincidence. It's basically reflecting that the sports achievement also reflects the comprehensive, economic power of the country. And remember, when did China overtake Germany? I think it's in the 2000. Yeah, it's roughly the same time when China's GDP overtook Germany. So I think that's a very good example of how GDP is important for the sports achievement. And when do we expect China to overtake the U.S.? That probably will happen
the economy
until China overtake in terms of GDP, right?